Diamond P Sports presents the fastest sport on wheels, championship drag racing. Hello, everybody. I'm Dave McClelland, and this is the 8th Annual NHRA Gator Nationals. We're in Gainesville, Florida at Gainesville Raceway, and there were 620 race cars on the grounds here for the past several days. Today, final eliminations for a total purse posting of over $250,000. But Mother Nature was almost top eliminator at this championship event. The rains came early this morning, almost flooding Gainesville Raceway, but the track's dry now and competition just about ready to get underway. My colleague, Frank Farino, is down on Manufacturers Midway.
Right, Dave. Hello, everybody. Nice to be back in Gainesville, Florida. You know, one of the reasons championship drag racing is so popular to both fans and drivers alike, the wide variety of machines you will see at these tracks. Everything from the kinds of cars you and I can have sitting in our driveway to some of the most exotic racing machines in all of motorsports. For instance, I'm standing in front of the top of the line, the top fuel dragster. Through a quarter mile, these machines are capable of speeds over 250 miles an hour in less than 6 seconds. These cars weigh about 1,500 pounds. The engines are putting out around 2,000 horsepower. The fuel is an exotic blend of nitromethane and methanol. There's a 2-speed manual automatic transmission. There's no clutch. The driver works it with a lever. It also has conventional disc brakes in addition to a parachute in the rear. The car is stabilized by air spoilers both on the back and the front. They are the premium muscle cars of championship drag racing. And let's take a look at some of the top drivers in this category.
James Warren, Bakersfield, California.
James Warren, the Ridge Route Terror. He drives the Warren and Coburn car. He won this event here in Florida last year. This year, he's already won the Bakersfield, California March Meet. Warren is married. He and his wife have 2 children.
I'm Jerry Ruth, and I'm from Seattle, Washington.
Jerry Ruth, they call him the King. He won the Winter Nationals in Pomona, California earlier this year. There are some in the sport who, for obvious reasons, call him a tall Sonny Bono.
Richard Tharp, Dallas, Texas.
Richard Tharp. In 1976, he won the Nationals in Indianapolis. He went on that year to become the NHRA World Champion. Off the track, Tharp is one of the more flamboyant dressers.
I'm Shirley Muldowney from Mount Clemens, Michigan.
The only woman licensed to drive a top fuel dragster. Last year, she won the Spring Nationals and the World Finals. She's a gourmet cook and an interior decorator.
Hi, I'm Don Garlitz from Sefner, Florida.
Don Garlitz, they call him Big Daddy, the winningest top fuel driver in NHRA history with 15 victories. He's a legend in motorsport racing and certainly the favorite of the home state crowd here in Florida. And Dave and I will be back with top fuel racing action right after this.
There's over $250,000 up for grabs at this Gator Nationals Drag Racing Championship. Let's start the action right now with Top Fuel Eliminator. The first pair of cars, Shirley Muldowney of Mount Clemens, Michigan, the only woman licensed to drive a Top Fuel dragster. Her competition, Clayton Harris from Moulton, Alabama. Both cars pulling into the staging beams. Let's watch. And a red light for Shirley Muldowney. That puts her, and an exploding motor for Clayton Harris. What a way to start this Gator Nationals racing. Shirley Muldowney red lighting away her chance in the first round of eliminations. Clayton Harris exploded a motor. With a red light start, it means that you leave the starting line too early. And you'll see here, Shirley Muldowney just a bit too quick on those starting lights. Clayton Harris, lots of problems, the loss of traction, and there goes the motor, exploding a motor. Harris into round number 2, lots of work ahead for him in the pits. Steve Stevens of Houston, Texas, being pushed back after his burnout. Richard Tharp driving for Candies and Hughes out of Houma, Louisiana. Tharp, the 1976 world champion, cleaning off his face mask to get a good view of that starting line system. The 2 top fuel dragsters capable of speeds over 250 miles an hour, pulling into the staging beams, getting ready for their trip down the quarter mile. cars off the line together. Oh, a close race at the finish. Richard Tharp just pulling it out by about a half a car length over Steve Stevens. The times, Tharp recording a 6.17 second elapsed time. His speed 241 miles an hour. The losing speed for Steve Stevens, a 6.26 second elapsed time. And here it is in slow motion at the finish. Richard Tharp by just a half a car length. The speed for Stevens, 233 miles an hour. The team of Jim and Allison Lee from the Plains, Virginia. Their driver, Lee Weller. The car started and pulled into the burnout box. The competition for Lee Weller, the legend in his own time, the man from Sefter, Florida, they call Big Daddy, Don Garlits. Pulling into the puddle of water, Garlits will be doing a burnout. All top fuel dragsters utilize the burnout to heat the tires. The purpose to heat them, obviously, to provide more traction. With the engines capable of producing over 2,000 horsepower, every bit of traction available is used. You see the tires growing as it comes out of the water. That's about the height that the tires stand when the car goes through the finish line. Smoke boiling off from actually burning rubber. Garlits is driving a museum piece. This car last ran in 1975 when he won the World Championship. He since retired it to his museum he is constructing in Sefter, Florida, but resurrected it for this race as his 1977 car was damaged in a race earlier this season. And Garlits, the pre-race, is certainly the crowd's favorite, with an easy win in the first round and a fine elapsed time of 6.07 seconds at 231 miles an hour. The rain-delayed eliminations finally underway here at the 77 Gator Nationals. This is Pat Dakin from New Carlisle, Ohio. The competition, Frank Bradley from Napa, California. Dakin building an early lead. Can he hold on? And he does by about a car length. Let's go down to trackside and Frank.
Okay, Dave, the big story, Shirley Muldowney, of course, red lighting first time out after this wicked weather really held things up. Big Daddy Don Garlits didn't disappoint anybody. 6:07, not as fast as qualifying, but he's still looking strong. It's still anybody's race. The track is not really slowed down by the rain. We should see some faster times.
Frank, you're right. The track in fine shape, as evidenced by that fine 6.07 second elapsed time by Don Garlits. Bob Struckness of Minot, North Dakota in the near lane. His competition, a name synonymous with drag racing over the past 2 decades, Chris Karamessinis from Chicago, Illinois. Struckness streaking to an easy win, 6.13 second elapsed time. His speed 238 miles an hour. Karamessinis slowing to a 6.74 elapsed time. Paul Longnecker from Arcanum, Ohio. Getting set to approach the starting line, Jerry the King Ruth from Seattle, Washington. The man that won the NHRA Winter Nationals earlier this season. Bit of an edge for Longnecker. He's drifting over the track, but he keeps his lead as he goes through the finish line. 6.15 seconds, 240 miles an hour. Jerry Ruth, a slowing 6.28 seconds. His speed, 230. Here's James Warren from Bakersfield, California, one of the most feared West Coast entries at this 77 Gator Nationals. Against Ruth from East Brunswick, New Jersey, Grant Staub. Burnouts completed, both cars pulling into the staging beams, getting set for their trip down this quarter-mile racing surface. The wheels coming into the light beams, staging lights on, and they're on. James Warren with a big lead, and Grant Staub's from behind. James Warren backing out of it. For some unknown reason, James Warren backed out of it. The times show at 6:26 elapsed time for both cars. The speed for Staub's 218 miles an hour, but only 175 miles an hour for Warren. Let's watch in slow motion. You see Warren out with an easy lead as he goes straight down that quarter mile. The parachute starts to come out and is fully deployed at the finish line as Grant Stoms with just about a wheel-length victory over James Warren, a big upset. Here's Tom Kaiser from Lakewood, Colorado. Gary Beck, now hailing from El Toro, California. Beck with a big hole shot, a big advantage at the starting line. And, boy, now that's a close race at the finish line. Tom Kaiser, I think, pulled it out at the finish over Gary Beck. Beck had a big head start at the starting line, but I think Kaiser came from behind. Let's watch in slow motion and see. The times for Kaiser, a 6:13 to a 6:33 for Beck, and here they come into the timing traps, and there you see it, just a wheel length. Tom Kaiser the winner. We'll be back with more Gator Nationals in just a moment. One of auto racing's most exotic cars, Frank's on Manufacturers Midway.
Earlier, we gave you a look at the top fuel dragster. Let's take a look now at the machine they call the funny car. Funny car is basically a redesigned fuel dragster with a fiberglass body. The body designs are replicas of many popular American compact cars, but these are built specifically for racing. This one, for instance, is a replica of a Trans Am Pontiac Firebird. Big difference from their street cousins, though. They only weigh about 1,700 pounds. They put out around 2,000 horsepower, about the same as a top fueler. The interiors are roll bars and aluminum sheet metal, has a single cockpit for the driver. There are no doors. The driver gets in and the body is then set down over him. Speeds about 240 miles an hour in just about 6 seconds. And for obvious reasons, the racers and the fans call them floppers. Okay, that's what the machine looks like. Let's take a look at some of the top drivers in the funny car category.
I'm Raymond Beadle from Dallas, Texas.
Raymond Beadle, he drives the legendary Blue Max car. Beadle is a former national champion. He is married. His fellow racers say he has a fine sense of humor.
My name is Gordy Bonham. I'm from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada.
Gordy Bonham drives the Bubble Up car. Coming down from Canada, he spends many days on the road traveling the championship circuit. He is married, the father of an 11-year-old boy. He has never won a national event.
Hi, I'm Don Perdone. I'm from Granada Hills, California.
They call him the Snake because of his lightning-fast reflexes. He is the winningest driver in all of drag racing. When he's not racing, he likes to relax riding motorcycles. He is married. He has one child. Well, you now know what a funny car looks like. You now have seen some of the drivers. Let's go back up to Dave and catch some funny car racing action. Dave?
Right, Frank, picking up the action in Funny Car Eliminator in round number 2. A total of 16 cars started eliminations here at this 77 Gator Nationals. 8 cars remaining. It's Tom McEwen driving the Corvette against Roger Lindemood. And for you trivia buffs, Roger Lindemood was the 1964 top stock eliminator at the U.S. Nationals. McEwen against Lindemood, Funny Car Eliminator. Tom McEwen's car breaking something. Roger Lindemood streaking to an easy victory. 6.51 seconds, 217 miles an hour. In a battle of the services, the U.S. Army Plymouth Arrow of Don Prudhomme from Granada Hills. His competitor, Bob Pickett, driving Mickey Thompson's car. This is the U.S. Marine entry. Pickett's car, a replica of a 77 Starfire. Mickey Thompson, another of the famed names of drag racing. Defending champion Don Prudhomme has an easy go of it. His time a 6.34 second, 228 mile an hour charge as Bob Pickett coasts through at only 69 miles an hour, going up in smoke, the tires losing traction from the start. Let's look at it on slow motion as you can see the fine driving job by Pickett. Prudhomme pulling away quickly to the lead. Pickett's car smoking the tires, starting to go sideways. He corrects it, and Prudhomme heads to the win. Our electronic computerized timing system flashing the times just as quickly as the car clears the timing traps at the end of the quarter mile. Here's Al Bergler out of Detroit, Michigan, the Motown Shaker. Bergler pulling up into the burnout area. Water puddles allowing the tires to break loose easily, and the 2,000 plus horsepower spinning them, smoking the tires. And you see the parts flying and oil coming out from underneath Al Bergler's car. Apparently, something going wrong with the motor. Ray Beadle in the blue Max pulling into the burnout area. And the official saying, shut it off, as Al Bergler dead on the racetrack. The car, lots of mechanical problems. You can see crew members out kicking off the parts and pieces that came bouncing out from behind it. Here comes Al Bergler's crew now. They'll be lifting up the body. Al will be getting out of the car. There was no fire. These cars carry an onboard fire extinguishing system. The NHRA safety safari truck pulling out onto the track to begin the cleanup preparation. Let's go down to Frank.
Dave, apparently Bergler threw a rod, and that threw a lot of oil on the track, and that brought the safety safari out again to dry this track off. You can hear the thrush machine coming behind me. They'll try and dry it off and get back to racing as soon as they can. I'm holding the pieces in my hand from Bergler's car, evidence of the problem. Back to you, Dave.
Thank you, Frank, and a tough break for Al Bergler as that $12,000 aluminum power plant suffering severe damage. Crowd flocking onto Manufacturers Midway during this downtime as Ray Beadle gets set to go now on a single run with the Blue Max. Every car must make the same number of runs in elimination, so Ray Beadle goes through the timing traps, 6.28 seconds, his speed 228 miles an hour. The last pair of this second round of funny car eliminations. In the near lane, Gordy Bonin, hailing from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, traveling quite a distance to get to Gainesville, Florida. Gary Bergen from California, the Orange Baron, a former national champion. His car, a 77 Monza. Both cars inching into the staging beams, getting set for that green light, which means go. Great handling job by Gary Bergen as Gordy Bonin records the low elapsed time of the meet for funny cars. In slow motion, you'll see Gary Bergen with his hands full as that car's starting to drift over the racetrack. But Gordy Bonin powers his way through to a 6.19 second elapsed time. His speed 236 miles an hour. Let's go back down to Manufacturers Midway and once again, Frank Fiorino.
Well, I showed you top fuel and funny car. I'm sitting in what they call the Pro Stock. I'm going to get out of this as gently, I hope, as I got into it. And that's about as close as I want to come to racing one of these machines. These start out as basic off-the-assembly line Detroit compacts. Then they're highly modified, both in weight reduction and engine modification, to achieve the maximum amount of performance on a weight to cubic inch limitation. Unlike the top fuelers and funny cars, the Pro Stocks retain a passenger car appearance on the interior. Through a quarter mile, they will turn over 150 miles an hour in about 8 seconds. Let's take a look now at some of the people who muscle these cars down the quarter mile.
Larry Lombardo from Douglasville, Pennsylvania.
Lombardo drives for Bill Jenkins. He was the Pro Stock World Champion in 1976. Earlier this year, he won the Internationals in California. Lombardo is married. He and his wife have one child.
Ken Dondero, Balboa Island, California.
Ken Dondero. He drives a 1977 Pinto. He drives for the Gap and Roush team. He is a former Team Jenkins driver, and he is a bachelor.
My name is Wally Booth. I'm from Berkeley, Michigan.
Wally Booth, he drives an AMC car. In 1976, he won 4 out of 8 national titles, including the Spring Nationals in Columbus, Ohio, and the World Finals in Ontario, California.
Warren Johnson, Ridley, Minnesota.
Johnson drives a 74 Camaro. He managed to place second to Larry Lombardo last year on the Pro Stock Championship circuit, even though it was his first real effort. He's considered to be one of the top Chevrolet experts in racing. The Pro Stock car is compact and fast, very fast. The driver is very good. Let's go back up to Dave, see how fast and just how good.
Thank you, Frank. We're into round number 2 racing in Pro Stock Eliminator. Don Nicholson, the low qualifier. He's in the Mustang in the near lane from Atlanta, Georgia. His competition, Dale Evans in the Camaro from Painesville, Ohio. Nicholson not to be headed on this run as he is a train length ahead of Dale Evans. 8.65 seconds, the elapsed time for Nicholson. His speed over 153 miles an hour. The number 1 and 2 car in the World Championship Series race last year, Larry Lombardo, shown here with the Monza of Bill Grumpy Jenkins. The number 2 car, Warren Johnson from Fridley, Minnesota. He drives the 74 Camaro. Warren Johnson with a big red light as he knew he had to take a chance. Larry Lombardo running better than Johnson. Johnson gambled on the red light and lost 8.75 seconds for Lombardo, 156 miles an hour. Wally Booth in the AMC car in the near lane. Frank Iaconio in the Chevrolet in the far lane. The crowd rising to their feet to watch. A close race at the finish, and it's Wally Booth. Wally Booth in the AMC Hornet, 8.82 seconds to a losing 8.87, and you can see what it amounts to, about a fender length. Former world champion Bob Glidden at the wheel of his Ford Pinto, the Gap and Roush Pinto, driven by Ken Dondero, and some problems apparently for Bob Glidden. He is headed down track at the moment. Glidden's brakes apparently failing as he came up to stage after the burnout, and he goes through the quarter mile unable to stage. That means it will be a bye run for Ken Dondero and a tough break for the former world champion Bob Glidden. Dondero leaving the starting line will complete his quarter mile run. 9 seconds flat, his speed 148 miles an hour as he catches up with the slowing Bob Glidden. Frank Farino has moved once again. This time he's in the grandstands here at the Gator Nationals.
Thank you, Dave. I'm sitting here with Wally Parks, the president of the National Hot Rod Association, his lovely wife, Barbara. We're 2 races into the championship season in '77. How do you assess it so far, Wally?
Well, I think we've got a tremendous season ahead of us after the phenomenal Winter Nationals that we had in California, and the fact that we had to turn down over 200 entry applicants that we didn't have room for, and what the people have done here to come out and wait to see if the weather was going to be clear and then come out and join us. Why, I don't know how we can miss. I couldn't be happier.
We're going to be back with more racing action, Top Fuel, right after this.
The 1977 NHRA Gator Nationals, Gainesville Raceway in Gainesville, Florida. We're in quarterfinal action of Top Fuel Eliminator, Don Garlits against Bob Struckness. Here's an interesting note. Bob Struckness' aluminum body is anodized, the color of the car, a black car, instead of paint, saving approximately 20 pounds in weight. Let's see if it does him any good. The crowd on its feet for the home state favorite of Don Garlits, and the 20-pound weight reduction may have helped somewhere, but in this case, it was Don Garlits wire to wire in quarterfinal racing. His elapsed time, 5.99 seconds. The first 5-second run in eliminations here today, 236 miles an hour. Struckness, a valiant 6:26. His speed, 231 miles an hour. You can see Garlits leading by several car lengths as he crosses the finish line in 5.99 seconds. Grant Stoms from East Brunswick, New Jersey, getting pushed back after his burnout. This is the brand new car of G.L. Rupp and Pat Dakin. The Rupp and Dakin team finishing the car just in time for this Gator Nationals event. Unlettered, practically unpainted at the moment. But Pat Dakin doing very well coming into this quarterfinal round. All cars are being powered now in Top Fuel at this event by an aluminum racing engine. 3 different types in use here, the Keith Black, the Milodon, and the only Donovan in the field, that's Pat Dakin. Stoms appears to have a brief lead off the starting line, but Pat Dakin with a car length victory at the finish, a fine 6.06 second elapsed time, his speed 236 miles an hour. Paul Longnecker on the burnout, really smoking the tires, getting them as hot as possible. Let's take another look at the burnout by Paul Longnecker. The long, slender, needle-nosed dragster, the tires raising up in the back as centrifugal force, making them grow about 6 inches in height. Smoke boiling off the tires as actually the rubber is burning. The heat building up in the tire, providing the traction for some 2,000 horsepower. as Longnecker faces world champion Richard Tharp at the wheel of the Candies and Hughes car. A great start by both cars, side by side in the middle of the course, and it's Paul Longnecker by 1 car length. Tremendous elapsed time, 6.03 seconds for Longnecker as jubilation reigning in the crew from Ohio. The losing time, 6.06 seconds, just 0.03 of a second separating those two cars in their trip down the quarter mile. Even closer, their speeds, 242 for Longnecker, 241 for Richard Tharp. 1 car length at the finish, Paul Longnecker the winner, advancing into the semifinals. The final race in this quarterfinal round, Tom Kaiser out of Lakewood, Colorado is in the near lane. His competition from Moulton, Alabama, Clayton Harris. Harris making it into the quarterfinals, and Shirley Muldowney red lighting away her chances in round number 1. Harris exploding a motor, having a lot of work in the pits before this second round action, but he's got it running and he's here on the starting line against Tom Kaiser. Both cars approaching the staging beams. Let's watch. And another red light. Tom Kaiser for the second round in a row. Clayton Harris advances through these eliminations as Tom Kaiser red lights, just as Shirley Muldowney did in round number 1. So Clayton Harris just coasting through, trying to save and salvage what he can of those broken parts and pieces. Tom Kaiser, a very dejected young man, turning off. You'll see here, there is the move by Kaiser. Certainly way before the green light came on. Clayton Harris just coasting on through as Tom Kaiser fouls away his chance in the quarterfinal round of this top fuel race here at the Gator Nationals. Right now, Frank again with another side of these super fast racing machines.
You know, racing fan or not, most Americans have an incredible love affair with the automobile. And a lot of people tend to think of them in the female gender. How many times have you looked at a really pretty car and said, isn't she a beauty? Well, racers are no different. They really love their cars. And singing star Larry Gatlin may have captured that feeling in this song.
I've never known a woman who's half as much a woman, honey, as you are. Na 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 na. Compared to you, the sun and moon are twinkling in the distance like a tiny star. Na 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 na. Ooh, you've given me a hiding place to come to when it rains, a shelter from the storm, and healing for my heart, my soul, my body, and the pain when I'm tired and worn, tired and worn. Now the summer sun don't burn me, 'cause you are my umbrella over and above. And the winter wind don't bother me now that you're here to cover me with a warm and tender blanket of your love, of your love. Warm
Chevrolet power plant in John Martin's Econo Altered, the Fram best engineered car of this Gator Nationals. Some dramatic action took place in the semifinal round of racing in Pro Stock Eliminator. Wally Booth defeated Ken Dondero driving for Gap and Roush. Booth recording an 8:98 elapsed time at a speed of 143 miles an hour, but losing a motor in the process, and that may make it difficult for him to make it back to the finals. In the second half of the semifinals of Pro Stock, Dyno Don Nicholson continuing his march through the field at an 8.74 second elapsed time over a rare red light by Larry Lombardo driving for Bill Grumpy Jenkins. The speed for Nicholson an astounding 157 miles an hour. Getting ready now for the semifinal round of Funny Car Eliminator. What a pair of matchups. Roger Lindemood and Color Me Gone against the defending champion Don the Snake Prudhomme, while Gordy Bonin, the Canadian, up against Texan Ray Beadle and the Blue Max. The first pair we see, Don Prudhomme in the near lane in the 77 Plymouth Arrow, Roger Lindemood, Color Me Gone. Frank's been down in the pits, and Don Prudhomme, invincible as he may be on the racetrack, is having problems with his health. It seems that Don has got the flu. Roger Lindemood, Color Me Gone. And Don Prudhomme jumping at the start, giving him a red light. Roger Lindemood, and look at the parts come out underneath Roger Lindemood's car. He explodes the motor on what would have been a very easy run for him. The oil smoke indicating a severely damaged engine. Prudhomme with a red light. As we said, he is sick with the flu and having problems, and I'm sure he just lost his concentration. So it's Roger Lindemood into the finals of Funny Car Eliminator, and there is Don Prudhomme holding his head and looking a bit under the weather. The Blue Max and Ray Beadle. A long, smoky burnout. Gator Nationals are bust. They come from all over the country for this NHRA championship event. Some of the most crowd-pleasing, spectacular shows put on by the Funny Cars and their long, smoky burnouts. Gordy Bonin, 77 Firebird from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, against the Blue Max. Both cars into the staging beams. The winner into the finals against Roger Lindemood. Gordy Bonin losing traction, but he's backing out of the throttle, and he pulls away to take the win over the Blue Max. Jubilation on the Gordy Bonin crew. A great race in that semifinal round of Funny Car. Ray Beadle and Gordy Bonin putting Bonin and Roger Lindemood in the finals. Right now, it's time for Top Fuel Eliminator semifinal round. Don Garlitz of Sefner, Florida, matched up against Arcanum, Ohio's Paul Longnecker. Pat Dakin up against the amazing Clayton Harris into the semis by the virtue of 2 red lights in the preceding rounds. The brand new car of G.L. Rupp and Pat Dakin getting pushed back as these cars not using reverse gears. They have no reverse in the transmission. Again, you can see those tires grow, and that's about the posture of the race car as it goes through the traps at 240 to 250 miles an hour. The crew pushing Pat Dakin back to the starting line. And it appears that Clayton Harris has shut off his engine. The unbelievable string of red lights by his opponents has finally run out. The severe stress on his engine parts, just a bit too much. Clayton Harris not making it to the starting line. It's Pat Dakin on the single run in the semi. 6.21 seconds his elapsed time. His speed 223 miles an hour. As a dejected Clayton Harris being pushed back into the pits. Came a long ways on the mistakes of his competitor, Shirley Muldowney, in round 1. And in round number 2, Tom Kaiser with the red light. Don Garlitz against Paul Longnecker. The burnout's completed. The cars coming into the staging beams. Certainly the sentimental favorite here at Gainesville Raceway as the sun begins to fade. We told you the rains this morning delayed the start of eliminations quite some time, and the sun beginning to set. It's Don Garlits pulling away from Paul Longnecker. And with an easy victory, Garlits 6.13 second elapsed time at 232 miles an hour into the final. In the pits, Frank Farino.
Pat Dakin, we've come all the way down to the wire in a race that's been filled with a lot of problems, not the least of which has been the weather. And here it comes down to the Top Fuel finals. Pat Dakin and Don Garlits, how do you feel?
Well, I feel good about going into it. The car's been performing quite well, and we haven't had any major problems with it. And we'll just give it our best shot. That's all we can do.
You know, Don becomes such a legendary favorite that when you go in, is there a psychological factor, or are you going in there just to win the race and not worrying about who's sitting in that next lane?
I'm going in purely to win the race. It doesn't matter who I'm racing against. People who try just a little too hard against him, the ones that mess up. I'm just going to do my own race and do the best I can. That's all I can do.
Pat, good luck.
Thank you, sir.
Pat Dakin. Dave?
Thank you, Frank. We'll be back in just a moment with the exciting final round action from the Gator Nationals. A total of 8 Eliminator champions are crowned at NHRA National Championship events, and your Gator Nationals champions in sportsman category racing in stock Eliminator, Jerry Stein from Stanhope, New Jersey. In super stock, Richard Griffin from Gainesville, Georgia. Modified Eliminator, David Hutchins from Fairfield, Illinois. Competition, Dennis Ferrara from Comac, New York. And in Pro Comp, Dale Armstrong from Torrance, California. Pro Stock Eliminator, we told you Wally Booth had trouble on his semifinal run. He was unable to answer the call. 49-year-old Dino Don Nicholson from Atlanta, Georgia, your Pro Stock champion here at the Gator Nationals. His elapsed time, low ET of the meet, 8.64 seconds. His speed, 155 miles an hour. Right now, we're ready for the finals in Funny Car Eliminator. Roger Lindemood's been having lots of problems and working in the pits after blowing a motor in the semifinal round, but Gordy Bonin is ready to go. And to please the crowd, the 77 Firebird of Gordy Bonin. A long, smoky burnout as the flames standing tall off the headers of this nitro-burning 2,000 horsepower power plant. The gathering darkness, allowing the spectators to see what has to be some of the most dramatic sights in all of drag racing. Top Fuel dragsters and funny cars racing to where the flames that normally you can't see in the daylight hours, they stand tall on every run. You can see them as the darkness sets in. Again, the heavy rains this morning that blanketed the Gainesville area caused the start of eliminations to be delayed for over an hour, allowing the racing to end up here in the dusk or the twilight hours. Gordy Bonin on a single run as Roger Lindemood. You saw earlier the parts spewing out behind the car. Bonin with his share of problems, a lot of smoke, he just shuts it off, pulls the parachute. The engine shuts down and Bonin coasts through, your 1977 Gator Nationals champion. A tough break for Roger Lindemood. Went into the finals as Don Prudhomme with a rare red light, allowing Lindemood to go into the finals. Lindemood blowing an engine in the semifinal round, unable to repair Gordy Bonin with the single. As Gordy gets out of his car, let's go to Frank Farino.
Here he comes. Gordy, congratulations.
Thank you.
I know that's not the way you'd like to win the thing, but you won it.
Yeah, that's true. We would have liked to race Prudhomme in the final. It would have been a heck of a race. We went top speed and low ET, but, you know, he was getting his stuff together, and apparently he's, you know, sick or something, and he just had a cockpit failure the semifinal.
Is there any way for accounting as to why sometimes you get out and you think everything's together and it's not, and then all of a sudden you show up one weekend and no problems at all?
There's a lot of luck involved, but, I mean, there's a lot of hard work. I mean, my guys have worked their heart out.
Paid off?
I'm telling you. Now we can keep racing. We made some money.
Gordy, congratulations.
Thanks very much.
Gordy Bonin, funny car champion, 1977 Gator Nationals. Dave, back up to you.
Frank, thank you very much. As the darkness really begins to set in now, it is Top Fuel Eliminator final. Pat Dakin in GL Rupp's car and Don Garlits. You can see the header flames standing very tall off of both these engines. Don Garlits has got to be the sentimental favorite with this huge crowd on hand that very patiently waited through the thunderstorms this morning. and through some great racing to reach this point for the final. In super slow motion, you can see each individual cylinder firing at idle. And then the flames standing tall as the tires in the burnout by Don Garlits. Garlits and Dakin, 2 cars remaining after 16 started eliminations here at the 77 Gator Nationals. Both cars now approaching the starting line. Their burnouts completed. Pat Dakin in the far lane. In the near lane, Big Daddy himself, Don Garlits. Starting line together, Dakin beginning to drift across the track. Garlits straight through the quarter mile. 6 seconds flat. His speed, 243 miles an hour for Don Garlits. Here in slow motion, you'll see what happened. Right there, Pat Dakin, just momentarily varying from the straight path down that quarter mile, having to lift, and that was enough to allow Don Garlits to head to the win. 6 seconds flat, 243 miles an hour. Here's Frank once again.
Don Garlits, he did it. 6 flat, 233. He took a car out of the museum, they kept saying all weekend, to do it. Didn't seem to matter one bit. Let's let him get out of this. Don, congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's been an exciting day.
It's been a day plagued by all kinds of troubles, the weather, mechanical problems, and yet they kept saying that you took this car out of the museum to come and run, and you didn't seem to have any problems at all with it.
Well, the car has responded tremendously. The engine's been running real well, and it is true, the car had been in the museum for 2 years.
In the meantime now, they're talking about Big Daddy coming out of retirement. Is it true?
Well, I'm here. What else can I say, right?
Congratulations again.
Thank you very much. It's really been a nice day.
Don Garlits, 1977 Top Fuel champion at the Gator Nationals. Back to you, Dave.
And our congratulations, too, to Don Garlits. We'll be back at the Gator Nationals in just a moment. The 1977 NHRA Gator Nationals into the record books. And the record books on this race will show that the 3 top winners in Top Fuel, Funny Car, and Pro Stock each received approximately $13,000 in cash and contingency awards out of a total purse posting of over $250,000. The racing, absolutely fantastic. The spectators, I think, were the winners at this race.
Oh,
right?
There's no question about it, Dave. As I said to Wally Parks, the president of the NHRA, these are the most loyal sports fans I've ever seen. That Sky this morning should have said to them, let's go, but they stayed, and it was worth it.
I'll tell you, the rains came this morning. It was like Lake Gainesville out throughout the raceway area. The delay in the start of eliminations caused the finals, in some cases, to be run in the twilight hours, but those loyal fans, as you say, stayed right there. You stayed most of the day in the pits, I think.
I had to, because a lot of the drivers spent a lot of time in the pits. Roger Lindemuth, Clayton Harris, Wally Booth, all thrashing with their engines. Wally Booth, of course, trying to change engines before the finals. He didn't make it. Dino Don Nicholson into the finals in Pro Stock as the winner, the first time, I believe, since 1973, and I think he did it right here.
That's right. He won Pro Stock in 1973 here at the Gator Nationals. But an interesting sidelight on Dino Don Nicholson is he's 49 years old. He won his first major NHRA championship in the year 1961 out of Pomona, California in the Winter Nationals in Top Stock Eliminator.
And how about Don Garlits?
Don Garlits drew a museum piece out of a museum he's building in Florida. It was actually the car that he won the World Championship with in 1975. He had retired it. Some damage to his 1977 car caused him to reenact it, bring it back, and sure enough, it took him right to the winner's circle.
49-year-old Don Nicholson, 45-year-old Don Garlits. Here come the senior citizens.
When we're talking about winners, I'll tell you the television viewers are also going to be the winners, Frank. We've got a new race added to the schedule.
Englishtown, New Jersey.
That's right, the Summer Nationals. The sequence follows this way. Diamond P Sports and NHRA present the Spring Nationals from Columbus, Ohio, then the Summer Nationals from Englishtown, and the World Finals from Ontario.
For now, I'm Frank Fiorino.
And I'm Dave McClelland. We hope you've enjoyed it, and see you in Columbus.